Hej och välkomna, mitt namn är Simon och dagens program kommer att handla om BYOD för komna. That's all kommuner. That's all my Swedish. Finished. So good morning, my name is Simon Tompson. I'm a solutions architect at Meraki, and I'm joined also by my colleague Nadim here. Nadim speaks excellent Swedish. So if you have any questions afterwards and you'd like to speak, prefer to speak in Swedish, then Nadim can help you for sure. Okay, so what we're going to do in the next 40 minutes, I'd like to introduce you to Meraki and also to the way in which we manage our networks. We are a data networking vendor, but really with a big difference to the ones that you know already. So let's get things started. So Meraki is the recognized leader in cloud networking. We now have thousands of customers in well over 100 countries around the world. And we include amongst those the world's largest cloud networking deployment. This is a networking vendor, or sorry, a hotel vendor in North America, a conglomerate called Accor, and they are managing around 10,000 devices through the Meraki system, so 10,000 Meraki devices. We have a very strong focus on technology innovation. We were actually founded by engineers who were beginning their PhDs at MIT in North America, and they wanted to come up with a new way of networking buildings together at MIT using wireless meshing. And when they did this, they realized they needed to have a good way of connecting to all of those devices, of managing those devices, and what they came up with was what we now call cloud networking. So we started in 2006, and really this is before cloud became the very overused word that it is today in the world of IT. We hear the word cloud all the time. But we have been doing this really since the very beginning. So we have a very strong focus on R&D continuously, and a large proportion of Meraki is actually the engineering department who are constantly working to improve this product. We're seeing extremely strong financial growth at the moment, so our approach seems to be working very well. We are privately held at this time, backed by Sequoia Capital and also by Google. Google was actually Meraki's first customer. They came along to one of our presentations while the guys were at MIT, and after the presentation they came up to us and said, "We'd like to buy 1,000 of your access points." So that's how Meraki was born. And we are seeing, as it says there, very strong growth at the moment. The company has actually doubled in size since the start of the year. So it's a very good time for us. And you can see there some of the names that we have been associated with, some of the customers we've been working with recently. So as well as customers, we also have very good recognition by the industry. We were very pleased earlier this year to be awarded the 2012 Technology of the Year Award from Infoworld.com. This is an organization that provides awards to products which really show a big difference and are very innovative in their industries. So previous winners have included products like the iPhone and the iPad, so we're obviously in very good company. If you know the enterprise world, then you will probably know about Gartner, and so we are on the Gartner Visionary Magic Quadrant. And if you take a look at that, we're way over on the right-hand side. So we're really seen as innovators in the wired and wireless LAN space by Gartner. And some of the others you can see there as well. And I just want to put up one more slide about customers, just to show you that we have very good coverage now across multiple verticals, including here in Sweden, of course. We are starting to make some really good progress here, I'm pleased to say. So we are extremely particularly well suited to organizations which are distributed, where they have multiple locations and they want to try to manage their network centrally. So why do we propose cloud networking as opposed to local management of networking devices? So let's take a look at the challenges that BYOD introduces, bring your own device. Over the last 10 years, we've seen a really big change from the way that we work. Maybe if you go back 10 years, unless you worked in sales, you probably had a fixed PC at a desk that you went to every day, and you did your work there. And the servers, the services that you were using were normally serviced from your own data center on the same site that you were working on. That world has almost completely gone away now, and it's much more common now to find various different devices for people to work on, and also for them to access their applications in a very different way to the way it was done 10 years ago. So a lot more focus nowadays on applications or apps, as we know them, on our tablet devices or our smartphones, but also accessing services which are in the cloud. So things like Google Apps, for example, so Google Documents, things like Salesforce.com, products like this which are not served from a server on the campus, but they're served from a cloud service. And this is a really great world. It opens us up to a lot of exciting possibilities in software, as you will see from the vendors upstairs, but it does create some challenges for IT. So our focus is around trying to address those challenges that the IT department has to deal with. And that is around the capacity of devices, it's around the type of applications that people are using and how they're using the network bandwidth, and we need to try to provide the tools to help them do this. So focusing again on these new types of devices, these smartphones and tablets, let's just take a look at the way in which this has grown. I'm sure you know this, but just it helps to be reminded. This shows how Apple's devices have grown over the first 11 quarters after they were launched. Okay, so steady pickup. And now we add in Android. Okay, and so Android, I think I saw a statistic recently that they're now at 75% market share globally. So it's growing extremely fast. And every single day, as it says here with this tweet, now over 700,000 Android devices being activated every single day, tablets, smartphones. So this is clearly going to have an impact on the workplace. It's not just for personal use. So we think that the cloud helps to increase IT efficiency and makes it a lot easier to manage these really wild environments with multiple device types in them. And it does so in three ways. So through manageability, through scalability, and through cost savings. So the manageability piece we will see in a moment. When I do a live demo, you will see how we do our management, and it really is very different to the traditional approach. We make it far easier to access quite complex networking features with a very nice graphical user interface. You'll see if you have any network engineering knowledge yourselves, you'll see very quickly just how different this is. It also scales extremely well. So with Meraki's management, there is really no difference between managing 10 devices or 10,000 devices as per that large customer. Because it's graphical and we can group devices together and manage them as a group, it becomes very easy to scale your network. And this leads to, these things put together lead to cost savings. We also remove things like a wireless LAN controller for the access points to connect to. We put all of that into the cloud. We provide that service in the cloud. So all you need to actually purchase, for example, on wireless, is just an access point. You stick it on the wall, connect it to the network. We handle everything else in the cloud. That's the only device that you need to buy. So obviously, if you're not buying a controller, and you know if you've bought one of these how expensive they are, if you're not having to pay for one of those, you don't have to maintain it, you don't have to buy support for it, you don't need to provide power for it and cooling for it in your data center. These things all add up to a really good story around cost savings. So our whole networking infrastructure, and this covers wireless LAN, security appliances, LAN switching, and also mobile device management, is all designed from the ground up to be managed via a browser-based interface. You will find no command line interface with Meraki. This is bad news if you like Cisco, but very good news if you like a fresh approach to managing a network. Let's take a quick look at the network architecture that we use. So we are always asked about this. Security is obviously very important for all of us. So it matters. People need to know where their data is actually going. Our solution, although it is cloud-based, it is an out-of-band solution. So what that means is that the only traffic that actually goes to the cloud is the management traffic for the Meraki devices that you're managing. Okay? So that is a very small trickle of data, as it says there, about 1 kilobit per second of data. And what that enables us to do is to provide management via a web browser to the device, but it also enables the device to feed very useful statistics into the cloud for analysis, and you'll see that in the demo in a moment. So the user traffic, that's the red line there, never touches the cloud. We're not interested in user traffic. We are interested in classifying user traffic, as we will see, but we're not interested in the user traffic itself. So we have been independently verified for this approach. So these are very well-known compliances in North America in particular. So they cover healthcare, and they also cover retail. So PCI compliance is basically organizations that carry credit card details. So clearly, security is extremely important in that case, and we have been independently verified for that. So it's a very reliable solution as well. We have multiple data centers around the world. Our solution is a distributed software system, so it's a proper cloud implementation. It's not just a virtual machine sitting on in a server in a data center somewhere. This is a properly designed from the ground up to be working as a cloud. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch to my web browser. So we'll be live on the internet, and I'm going to give you a quick demonstration of how this works. So I need to sit down, if you'll excuse me. Okay, so what we're looking at here is a top-down map view of Meraki's headquarters in San Francisco. So this is live information. I'm probably going to be prompted to log back in because it has a security timeout. So let me just log back in. We also provide two-factor authentication for login as well via a web browser. So an additional layer of security there. Okay, so here we are. So we start off with a nice overview. We have very useful information straight away around the usage over the past week. So we can see the weekend there, for example. And what we have here is information about the number of clients who have been on this wireless network and the amount of data they've transferred over the past day. We also can see, obviously it's very early in the morning in San Francisco. I don't think the sun is really shining there right now. We can see the number of users who are currently associated with the various access points that we see as we look top down. Now we can put in different views here as well. So I've got some floor plans that have been uploaded. So we can put our own maps on here. It takes all different file formats. You place your APs where you want them to go, and that gives you straight away very useful information. Remember, if you're managing lots of different sites, it's quite handy to have this graphically so you can see where these things are. You can probably see some thin gray lines between the access points. These are automatically created mesh connections between the APs. So although they are connected through their LAN port, it's the normal way we do it, they also create this mesh between themselves automatically. That can be used for a failover if there's any problem with the wired connection. And it also means that there's always a way that we can find our way out to the internet so that the APs can be managed properly. So if I hover over an access point, I get a little bit more information there. You can see this, this device has had 11 clients connected to it, 1 at the moment, and the data they're currently exposed to. So let's just click into that and have a look at that access point. So now we get to more information that's useful to IT people in particular. So we see its location on the map, and we get into information about things like what channels it's using on the 2.4 gig and 5 gig radios, and the power levels that it's working at right now, its location, very useful to have these things here, which wireless networks it's actually serving at this time, and then various IP information. We see how many clients again, and we've got live information down here. So we have some live tools. This is showing me the real live throughput right now for this access point. And we have some other tools built down here as well. So we can look at the channel utilization, for example. So in Meraki's headquarters, it's a crazy place for radio. There's all kinds of development work going on there. It's a very noisy RF environment. So we always expect to see some interference, particularly at 2.4 gig. So we can see we've got some there created by various devices which are not running normal Wi-Fi standards. So this could be things like microwave ovens, baby monitors, Bluetooth, all sorts of things. We can also do a spectrum analysis for the 2.4 gig radio, and then we've got some basic troubleshooting tools, what you would expect to see. This one's quite useful. If you have a lot of access points and you want to direct somebody to a particular access point, you can just blink the LEDs on there so they know where to go and have a look. Here we see the mesh neighbors, the various APs that this access point has automatically connected to. So we know we've always got connectivity out to the outside world. And then we get a history bar showing us that this has been working extremely well for this period of time. I can change that very easily to 1 week. But I would still want that to be solid green. If we saw a little red bar there, that would indicate perhaps there's been an interruption to service. Then we could go in and do something about that. Okay, so that's the access point view. Let's have a quick look at the client view. This is really nice. So now we're looking at client usage over the past week for all client types on all of the wireless networks that we have at this location. So we can see here that we've got 403 devices altogether, and they're all listed down here. Now that's quite hard work, having to look through 403 if you want to find a particular device or device type. So we can actually go in and effectively Google our network, which is quite nice. So I can start typing here. I can just put in iPad, and now I see a list of 24 iPads that are working on this network or have been working on this network in the past week. Okay, and it also works for operating systems. So if I type in Windows, and then let's put in one version of Windows, look at that. We've still got two crazy people hanging on to Windows XP. Amazing but true. When will they give up? I don't know. So this is quite sophisticated device fingerprinting we're doing. We're not just using a name. We are looking for various signatures that the device sends out. For example, when it's looking for a DHCP address, if it's sending an ARP request on the network, then it's going to give out clues that we can use to help identify that device type. So that's quite nice. And then here we have a pie chart showing all of the different applications that are in use on our network. So this is where we start to see some of the power of cloud networking, because we are using layer 7 traffic analysis to look at how the network's being used, and we can show that information very easily to the network administrator. So this is a very noisy pie chart, lots of applications. So the good news is that I can just click it, and then I get a nice table here showing me all the applications that are in use. Okay, so right now they are sorted by group usage, so type of application. And remember I said that we're not interested in user traffic, but we are interested in classifying user traffic. And that's why you see what you've got here. So for example, we can see Dropbox is a very heavily used tool in Meraki. We're a cloud company, so we use quite a lot of cloud services ourselves. And as we look down the list here, we might see an application that perhaps we don't consider to be business appropriate. So perhaps YouTube might not be seen as a business tool particularly, especially if you have limited bandwidth. So what I can do now is I can just click on YouTube, and now I'm going to see all the clients' usage for YouTube application. So this is a really nice way of quickly finding out how your network is being used. You don't just put your network in and forget about it. It's constantly giving you feedback and useful information. So I can see here the top talker on YouTube, and I can click into that top talker and see what else that person is doing. So now I can see an individual client view. I have a map again, so I'm triangulating the location of that device using the access points. I can see what operating system he's running, what radios he has, so on and so forth. I can do a packet capture on there if I want to do that. So that's a very powerful tool to be able to run directly on the interface here. And then here I can run a ping to the device, so useful for troubleshooting. And then down here I've got an application pie chart which is showing all the applications that user is making use of. So we can see here 2/3 of this person's traffic is YouTube. So hopefully he works in marketing or something like that, not in the engineering department. Now what do we do about that? So okay, maybe we say, okay, YouTube, fine, absolutely, everybody looks at a YouTube video sometimes, lunchtime, break times. But 2/3 traffic utilization, that's really not very appropriate for work. So what do we do about it? Well, of course, there's a couple of things that we can do. The first of those is a little bit mean. I can just go in and I can immediately block that user, cut them off the wireless network. without any warning, or I can just send them a message saying CIT. Okay, so this user will get that message on their browser when they attempt to go to any web page. The Wi-Fi will simply stop working for that particular device. So that's a little bit mean, maybe. I don't know. If it was the CEO, I probably wouldn't do that approach. All right, what I could do instead is I could do something a bit more intelligent, which is to shape the user's traffic. So if you're not familiar with this, this simply means I've got this much bandwidth, I'm going to give this much of that bandwidth to this application to make sure that I've still got a good amount of bandwidth left over to play with. So let me show you that interface quickly. So in here we have firewall and traffic shaping. So I have a layer 3 firewall and a layer 7 firewall as well. So I can go in and I can create, again, blocks for particular application types and categories. So we've got peer-to-peer denied here on our network, but I could choose a particular one of these peer-to-peer services and just block that one. So it's really powerful. And then down here we have the traffic shaping part. So let's see, I'm going to create a new rule here, and I'm going to choose the application that I'm not happy about use of. That's YouTube. And so while I'm in here, let's also do iTunes as well. And then all I need to do is just use this slider. I can say, okay, I'm going to give 350 kilobits of bandwidth to that application. I apply it, and it's done. It's really that easy. Has anybody in the room ever configured traffic shaping on a traditional network vendor switch? Any volunteers? There's a guy who's done it. Did you enjoy that process? Not very much. I asked that question. It's always a bit brave to ask live questions in a session, but nobody has ever said to me, yeah, I had a great time. I really enjoyed it. It's hard work with most of the other traditional approaches. This is so much easier to access very powerful tools. Okay, so I want to just quickly show you a couple of other things on here as well. Everything I've shown you so far, by the way, is only requiring an access point and a license. You do not need to buy any hardware. There's no firewall to buy. We provide all of this service through the cloud to that device, that single Meraki device that you make use of. So I'm going to leave that page and go to access control. And so in here, I can choose how I access my network. So if you've ever done this with wireless, and you may have done so at home perhaps, so you've seen things a little bit like this, I can choose how I set up my security for my access. So a pre-shared key is how we would normally do it at home. In the workplace, it would be more common to use something like a Radius server or Active Directory to provide authentication of users. And we can certainly work with your own Radius server, or we can provide authentication services ourselves, again, through the cloud. Okay, we can also do splash pages. So if you want people to read terms and conditions, if you want to set up billing, you can do that through here as well. You can actually, in about 5 minutes, you can set up billing for wireless. So very useful if you're maybe running a coffee shop and you want to just charge people for the service. You could, for example, say 10 minutes for free, and then once an hour you pay $10, for example. And what we do is we take care of all of the credit card collection, all of the money collection, and you just give us a PayPal address. End of the month, we send the money to the PayPal address. Couldn't make it any easier than that. Okay, so I tried this at home. Strangely, none of my neighbors wanted to pay for Wi-Fi access. I was very disappointed. So we also have down here, we can actually create policies for devices. So let's say we want to provide a certain amount of bandwidth to iPads that come onto our network environment. And we can do that in here. So if I create a group policy type here, I've got a list of device types that we recognize. And we're always keeping on top of the market so we can adapt to this. So we've already got Windows Phone in there, for example. So let's pick on iPads here. And then I've already configured some policies which set various bandwidth levels and so on. I just select which one I want, and it's done. Ready to apply. So whenever one of those devices connects to the network after that, they will get that kind of treatment. And just to show you that very quickly, we just quickly look at the policy settings that we can do ourselves. So here is an iPad policy which has already been created. So right now it's got unlimited bandwidth, but I could go in and play with that if I wanted to, change it around. I am on a live network here, so I have to be careful what I click on. But we can apply it to a particular wireless network, so we can force that device to connect through a particular Wi-Fi network, for example. We could put it into a particular VLAN if we wanted to do that. And we can also apply some bespoke firewall policies as well, just for that particular device type. So very powerful, but again, this is all extremely easy to access and use. Much, much easier than you would expect to see with traditional networking vendors. Okay, I'm aware that time is passing very quickly. Nadim's looking at his watch, so I have to be aware of these things. I'm just going to show you very quickly our mobile device management solution before we go back to the slides again. So Meraki decided earlier on this year to introduce mobile device management because it's the kind of thing that fits very well with our browser-based management. And the very good news for you guys is that we provide this completely free of charge. So if you're looking for a mobile device management solution, you can try ours for absolutely no cost whatsoever, and that's for life. So there is absolutely no cost associated with this. Obviously, we hope, and especially Nadim hopes, because he works in sales, that you're going to love what you see in terms of the interface and how easy it is to use. And so you'll potentially look at some of the other products that we have in the portfolio, so the wireless, the security, and the LAN switching. So this is the mobile device management interface. As you can see, it looks just the same as what we've been looking at up till now. So I can quickly get a list of all of the clients who are associated, and I can add Android phones, iOS devices, so that's iPads and iPhones, Windows PCs, and Macs as well. And I can manage all of those centrally through this tool. So here we have an Android device. Let's have a quick look into that and see what information we have. So in here, we get a different level of access depending on how the device is being managed. So this particular user has location tracking disabled, but we can set it up if we want to enforce that. We can support location awareness as well for devices. And so we can see that this is a Samsung Galaxy S3, so obviously an Android phone. And I can do various things with these devices depending on how I have it configured at the back end. As I said, this is a live network, so some of the settings will vary. On here, I've got the ability to go in and lock that device if it's lost or stolen. I can also erase that device, so I can do that with Android phones and also with iOS as well. And we get some useful information about that particular device. We also see what applications they have installed. So this works very well, especially if you have devices which you are giving out to your employees and your staff that you're responsible for, okay? I actually have on a different browser screen here, I've got my own device that's sitting in my bag upstairs. This is a Nexus 7 tablet, and you can see it's been identified with the location awareness where we are right now. So if I click into that, we can quickly see that device. So I can see what battery charge it has. I can see where it is right now with the location awareness. And there I do have the ability to go and erase that. I'm not going to do that because that would be annoying. But I was testing it earlier on with the lock screen thing, and that works perfectly fine. So it's very, very, very useful to be able to do this if the devices that you manage are accidentally mislaid, for example. Now there's a lot of tools built in here. I'm just going to switch back to the other network again. There's a lot of tools built in here. So we can do remote desktop for Windows PCs and Macs as well. I can also go in and have a look at this. I can, at a glance, see if all of these devices are compliant with, bless you, with our security policies. So this takes a little moment to load because it has to go and check. But you can see here, based on Microsoft Security Essentials, that all of these PCs, you can see that they're all currently secured. But we could go in and we could add in all these different types of information that we can gather. I can also do a software audit very easily with this tool. So I click into software, and again we have to wait for a moment for it to start activating. I love these pauses. And now I've got a list of all of the software that I have installed across, this is across our whole Meraki estate. So if I do a search for Word here, and I just click on Microsoft Word, I can see that I've got 263 installations of this with 3 different versions. And down here is a complete list of all of those. Okay, so it's a very, very quick way of establishing if you've got license coverage that you need for the applications you're running, and you could, if you're exceeding your number of licenses, you could potentially go in and uninstall that application, for example. So it gives you quite a lot of control if that's what you want to be able to do. For the actual mobile devices themselves, we can go in and we can set up, we can put in settings to those devices. So here we are looking at restrictions for iOS and Android. So I've got some which are iOS specific and some which work on both operating systems. So camera is quite a good one. So there's quite a few workplaces where you're not allowed to use a camera. So we can disable cameras for all of the managed devices. And then you will see quite a lot of iOS specific settings that we can use. And we're accessing Apple's tool. Apple's tool is behind this to enable us to get this access to the devices. The nice thing is we bring what Apple gives us into a much wider solution. So scrolling down at the bottom here, I've got some Android-specific restrictions around storage encryption, for example. So I can require that for all Android devices that connect to my network. And I can also send out policies, certificates for Wi-Fi access and VPN connectivity as well. So these are things which are quite complex for end users. So it's really nice with this. I can put in all of the specifics around how to connect, what's the shared secret, all of this good stuff. And then I can push that as a profile out to the device. And then on iOS, for example, you then just get VPN suddenly appears in the settings, switch on the VPN, boom, you're connected. Okay, so it's really, really nice way of helping end users to get connected. There's so much I could show you here. I don't think I have time to look at very much more right now. The good news is that we're here all day, so if you are interested in what you're seeing or you'd like to look at applications in a little bit more detail, perhaps the security appliances and the switches, we could show you all of that as well. Do come to our stand. We're upstairs. You can't miss us. We have a big green flag. Right, let me switch back to the presentation. Now I can see what the time is, so I know how much time I've got left. Okay. So it's really what we do from here is just a summary of what I've shown you in a way. Just brings it all together quite nicely. So how would we go about preparing our network for bring your own device? This is something which a lot of us are doing now. In fact, let's have a hands up. Who has taken their own smartphone or tablet to the workplace so far? Yeah, I mean, it's 2/3 of the room. So it's a growing phenomenon, and it's something which IT administrators do need to take seriously because it's not going to go away. These devices are definitely here to stay, and they're getting cleverer all the time. So these are the areas that we really need to be able to address with mobile device management: security, capacity, and management. Let's take a look at each one of those in a little bit more detail. So it's very important to be able to use some kind of device fingerprinting, and we can do that with at layer 7. So we can identify a device type, we can look at the applications that they're running, we can see where they're located. It's very easy for us to therefore go in and manage those devices. We also provide the ability, it says at the bottom there, something I didn't show you in the demo, but we also have network access control built into the system. You don't need to buy a separate security box just to do network access control. So this will check, for example, are your virus definitions up to date? If they're not, then you can be redirected to a server which is going to enable you to put that right before you get access to the network. So this is, for those who know the protocol, it's 802.1x based network access control. Right, and here is a little bit more detail on that. All right, so that's the interface. That's the actual interface you see. Again, very, very easy to set this stuff up. You've just got those choices to make. Switch it on or switch it off, and where are we going to direct users who are not compliant? And this is a comparison. You may recognize some of these icons, if you're network engineers especially, of one of our major competitors, of how they would implement these things. So just to show you the sheer difference there in terms of access to complex technology with just a couple of mouse clicks. This is what happens when you move things into the cloud. That's why we do this. So here's one approach we could take with devices that belong to individuals that they've brought to the workplace. We could put them into a specific wireless network. So that would enable us then to set certain criteria just for that network type. And as you can see there, we can do that based on users and based on devices. It's easy to do, but the user has to actually think, which network do I join? Now that's one of the advantages we have with Systems Manager, where we can go in and we can push a particular Wi-Fi network to a device type to make sure it always connects to that network. As we see here. I'm always doing this, talking about the next slide. I don't know how I managed to do it. So you can see here, built into the access point, again, this quite sophisticated firewall. So layer 7 application awareness, and the ability then to create these rules based on things like VLAN tags, bandwidth limits, and so on. So this means we can give different treatment to different users in the network, different device types, and so on. It's very granular. You have a lot of control just with a few mouse clicks. Now, capacity is an extremely important one for wireless. Most people who've deployed wireless networks up till now, they've done it largely just for basic connectivity. This is what I experience when I go out to customers. So they have the ability to provide coverage in a meeting room or for guest users. What they have not designed their networks for is complete coverage of their whole environment, but also for the sheer number of devices that are now joining their network. Because in the last few years, this has tripled. The average number of, apparently in college students in North America, the average number of Wi-Fi devices that they are carrying with them in the daytime is 3. Okay, so that's, and a lot of these are connecting all the time to the wireless network. I've got 3 devices myself here. I'm a bit of a geek, so I have an excuse. But this makes a significant impact on wireless use, and so capacity is very important. This is why we need to be able to do things like prioritizing traffic, prioritizing applications and device types on the network. Okay. Now, we did a survey of our customers last year, actually, and this showed that iPads are consuming around 4 times the amount of data as a traditional smartphone, for example. Now, this is the sheer volume of very rich data that we're able to access on these iPads. You can imagine now these high-res screens, the retina displays that they have, the sheer number of pixels it's having to update all the time if you're streaming across the network. That's a lot of bandwidth that we never had to think about 5 years ago. So the wireless networks in many cases are no longer fit for purpose. And this is why they need to take into account how the network is being used. So RF capacity planning becomes extremely important. Of course, those of you who know radio well, the 2.4 gig spectrum, it's all open and it's extremely crowded. So we have the ability now to connect with some devices to 5 gigahertz and some to 2.4 gigahertz. The good news is right now the 5 gigahertz spectrum is quieter. And if we see devices that can use 5 gigahertz, we do something called band steering, where we encourage that device to connect at 5 gigahertz. So that's what my laptop's doing. So we have 2.4 and 5 gig here in the event. The laptop has connected at 5 gig. My old iPhone is just 2.4 gig, so it's working on that one. But a brand new iPhone, for example, and many new smartphone devices now have those dual radios. So we are going to see some impact on capacity planning, for certain. Okay, so management. We're getting there, folks. We're nearly there. So it's very important to be able to provide this level of control. And I've showed you this during the demo, this ability to go in and apply policies. So remember where I went in and blocked the user? One of the other things I could do on that screen is to put that user into a policy that I've already created. So we actually do this. I mean, this is actually a real screen grab from our headquarters. We do have a contractor environment policy that we can apply to users who come in from outside, and they get restricted access to the network. Okay, so from a maintenance perspective, we also have the ability to automatically scan the wireless environment to make sure that we are not getting too much interference from adjacent access points. This is particularly important if you're in a building which has multiple businesses in it. Everybody switches on their wireless and it can be mayhem. So it's very useful to be able to see at a glance and update your channels to make sure that you're getting the best performance possible. We also, by the way, have the ability to make our access points work as a permanent scanner on the network, so they can be looking for rogue access points, devices that should not be there, and we can take action against that. So if we see a rogue access point, we can prevent clients from associating with that access point. So this is quite important, again, in a multi-tenant environment. So controlling managed devices. Now, this is the systems manager we looked at. I didn't show you this screen, but we've incorporated the stores into the tool as well. So you have a front end for the iTunes store, also for the Google Play Store for Android, so that you can put in your own managed applications. This is quite important because you imagine a user brings a phone to work and it's their phone and they've got Angry Birds on it, for example. You don't want to go in and start messing around with people's personal applications. So we separate out the personal applications from applications that we consider to be managed. So if you install an application through this tool, it's then a managed application, and then you control it as an IT administrator, so you can remove it if you want to do so for security reasons. Okay, so here are some of the details around Systems Manager. Hopefully, I mean, the best thing to do really is to just go and play with this yourself, because as I said, it's completely free. You can go and download it when you get home today. I'm sure that's the first thing you'll want to do when you get home. And stop laughing. And so you'll be able to give this a try and see if it could be a good fit for your business. All right, very quickly now, we're really running out of time, so I'm conscious of that. We all need a coffee. I just want to show you quickly the portfolio of products. We can talk about these at the stand. So access points, we have indoor and outdoor. We actually started our business with outdoor meshing APs, but these are now very popular for indoor as well, and different models depending on how much performance you want, what radios you want, up to 900 megabits per second of theoretical throughput on the top access point in our family. Power over Ethernet, all the good stuff you'd expect to see. But look at these integrated features. This is really what's different about Meraki to everybody else. You don't normally get all of these without spending tens of thousands of dollars on additional hardware to placed into your data center. Security appliances, we have a complete range from the kind of device that a teleworker would use at home, providing site-to-site VPN connectivity, for example, very sophisticated content filtering, right through to enterprise-class device. This beast here can support 10,000 users. It's got a 4 terabyte hard disk RAID array built into it for WAN optimization. There's a lot of features built into these security appliances. Again, you normally buy lots of separate solutions from lots of different vendors at great cost. With Meraki, it's all built into the same device. And earlier this year, we introduced LAN switching as well. It's actually taken off really fast because people can see, of course, we know LAN switching is sold by everybody. But LAN switching the Meraki way, again, it's managed through the cloud, and you can configure ports on multiple switches on multiple sites with just a couple of mouse clicks, group them together, and make those changes. So the power of the cloud works extremely well for these kinds of devices which are multiplied many, many times over in our environments. And the Systems Manager, we've seen that already. I don't need to go over this again, but do give it a try. I highly recommend it. Just head over to our website. You'll find it there. We also do encourage people to try this equipment for themselves, because we're very confident that when you actually get this and play with it yourselves, you're going to love what you see. Hopefully you liked what you saw during the demo. So we absolutely offer free trials for all of our equipment, which you can organize through this gentleman here, who would love to see you, but also directly through our website at meraki.com/eval. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Are there any burning questions that you'd like to ask right now at all? You all want a coffee, don't you? And lunch, good idea. I'd completely forgotten about that. Okay, so if you do have any questions, if you think of anything after you've digested your food, we are at the stand upstairs. Do please come and talk to us. And of course, you can talk to this gentleman in Swedish as well. Thanks very much for your attention.